And we're live and on the air, and this is the TWIS Minion Science Island Hangout. I'm Dyer from the great state of Connecticut, and joining me tonight, as usual, Pamela Taylor. I'm sure her precocious, rambunctious daughter Chelsey will be popping in from time to time. We got a bunch of science stories as well, including a couple that relate to Australia. Not only does Australia have one Great Barrier Reef, it's got two. One recently discovered. Amazing. We got ice mountains on Ceres, the moon Ceres. We have another progressive step in engineering organs, growing organs in a lab, in this case livers, which can be difficult to do to replace transplants. Transplanting livers, damaged organs. We've got people coming up with some antibodies for Alzheimer's, some progress being made there. Got a good story about a vaccination success. Our friend Dale, Canadian Minion Dale, posted this story on Facebook. Another story about we hear how much humans are damaging the environment. Well, here's some research. This is a First Nation group I think it was 10, 13,000 years ago. And they were a coastal group that relocated into a forest. And they brought the shells and things from the seafood and deposited into the forest floor. And it actually has resulted in enhancing the forest environment. So here's a case of humans enhancing the environment, the diversity. We got 4D printing. Never heard of that before. We got our friend, the environmental Pope. I'm going to start. This is the story that's been on the news. Probably everybody's seen it, heard about it. That's that SpaceX launch, SpaceX test of a launch that was going to go down schedule Saturday, and it blew up. So I'm going to start by simply screen sharing that particular video, just in case you haven't seen it. It is a rather spectacular. Come on. Got to get the screen share right. Here we go. Here we go. Sharing. Okay, come on. Small screen. Here we go. And it's in about, here we go, 1 minute mark. And, you know, it just happened this morning. But the latest reports I've read are that the problem wasn't with the rocket itself. It was with the launch pad. And what they had been doing, what they had done previous to this, is they had changed some protocols on the launch pad, did some reprogramming or something. And that seems to be what caused the problem. The kind of thing, I mean, this is really relatively new technology. That is, SpaceX, still relatively new to the launching game. They've had a lot of success. You expect some problems. Boom. Now, no one was injured. Obviously, they're going to be damaged to the launch pad. Don't know if you can hear it.
No, I can't hear it, but I can see it. How much did that cost?
I don't know. Millions, obviously. Let's see. I had a little write-up on it. Let's see. 9 a.m. that happened. The big loser in this is they were planning to, and as you can see, well, they say it didn't actually destroy the rocket, but the top of the rocket is obviously tilting, so it's, you know, the top part certainly is not usable. You don't really say the cost. I know that there was a communication satellite which was financed by Facebook, and Facebook had put something like $250 million, $200+ million into the project. And it's a satellite Israeli-based operator, space.com. A significant impact on the company, obviously. And just last November, ground controllers lost contact with the previous satellite in the so-called Amos Ceres. Spacecom said the new satellite was supposed to provide services for television and internet operators in the sub-Sahara Africa and the Middle East. Falcon X rocket destroyed Thursday is the same type used to launch space station supplies. So it's a setback, probably a big setback for that Israeli company, because probably Elon Musk and SpaceX has got the resources to cover something like this. And I'm sure they expected they were going to have problems like this. But I don't know how many resources this Israeli-based company has. So that could be a problem. NASA says they're on track for their launch of an asteroid-chasing and sampling spacecraft, the first of its kind for the U.S. Spacecraft and the Atlas rocket inside their hangar at the time of the explosion about a mile away, and the preliminary instructions showed everything was in good shape. They had carried out 8 successful launches this year, and had 9 more in the wings for next year, including the debut of the Falcon Heavy. That particular schedule for SpaceX is probably in jeopardy at this point. So it's the kind of thing you can expect. I don't know what kind of insurance, that there's space insurance or something, but if you're in a business, you're going to make it a commercial project. I was thinking primarily the smaller Israeli company. I got to assume they've got to have some kind of a backup insurance, because if they don't, this could pretty much put them out of business.
Yeah, but I don't even know who would insure for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I think it's just cost a lot of money, and they just said it's an anomaly. It's just they don't know why. Yeah,
well, it wasn't the rocket. It had to do with whatever processing changes or retrofitting needed to the launch pad itself.
So have they ruled out sabotage?
Oh, I saw nothing to suggest any kind of sabotage. As I say, it seems to be some kind of programming. Can't even say it's programming. It's something in the way they changed the launch pad. I don't know, procedures or something. That's just, and this is just early stages. I'm sure in the next couple of days they'll come up with something more specific. So it's, that's the way it goes. This is not going to put SpaceX out of the business in any way, means, or form, because they've had 8 successful launches. Even NASA, Russia, they probably got like a 10% failure rate. So you can pretty much expect something like that is going to happen. Too bad. Too bad for our Israeli company, and too bad for Facebook. Because that's maybe, they probably needed this so they could, for internet coverage in the sub-Sahara and places like that doesn't currently have coverage. So I'm sure that's why Facebook was financing it. All right. Got yet another story about our planetary bodies, the planets, moons, and our own little solar system being incredibly more dynamic places than we had ever suspected. That's the wrong, hit the wrong screen share. This is the one I want to screen share. The ice mountain. The ice mountain on Ceres. Okay. Now that's just a hypothetical. That's just a made-up picture. But it's the kind of thing they believe that may now exist on Ceres. And I'll read from the story. It's a lonely old 3-mile-high mountain is what they're thinking. It is likely volcanic in origin, and the dwarf planet may also have a weak temporary atmosphere. These are just two of the many insights from NASA's Dawn mission published in 6 papers. And Dawn revealed that Ceres is a diverse world that clearly had geological activity in its recent past. This is Chris Russell from the University of California at Los Angeles. Dawn may have detected a weak temporary atmosphere. Dawn's gamma ray and neutron detector, GRAND, observed evidence that Ceres had accelerated electrons from the solar wind, to very high energies over a period of about 6 days. In theory, the interaction between the solar wind's energetic particles and atmospheric molecules could explain these observations. A temporary atmosphere would be consistent with water vapor the Herschel Space Observatory detected at Ceres in 2013. The electrons that the GRAND detector could have been produced by the solar wind hitting the water molecules that Herschel observed, but they're looking to other explanations. Now, this particular volcanic dome, AHUNA, Ahon Mons, or something like that, unlike any seen anywhere else in the solar system so far. They studied formation models of volcanic domes, 3D terrain models and images from Dawn, as well as analogous geological features elsewhere in the solar system. This led to the conclusion that the mountain is likely volcanic in nature. Specifically, it would be something called a cryovolcano, a volcano that erupts a liquid made of volatiles such as water instead of silicates. And this is the only known example of a cryovolcano that potentially formed from a salty mud mix and that formed in the geological recent past. They don't identify what recent means. And while Ahon Mons may have erupted liquid water in the past, Dawn has detected water in the present. Dawn's visible and infrared mapping spectrometer detected probable water ice at another crater, Oxo crater, and a small, bright, sloped depression at mid-latitudes on Ceres. Exposed water ice is very rare on Ceres, but the low density of Ceres, the impact-generated flows, and the very existence of this ice mountain, Ahon Mons, suggested that Ceres' crust does contain significant component of water ice. I'm going to read a little bit more here because it is a little bit complicated. Implicated impact craters are clearly the most abundant geological feature on Ceres, and their different shapes help tell the intricate story of Ceres' past. Craters that are roughly polygonal, that is shaped bounded by straight lines, hint that Ceres' crust is heavily fractured. In addition, several Cerean craters have patterns of visible fractures on their floors. Some, like Oxo, have terraces, while others, such as the large Unarva crater, which is 160 miles or 170 kilometers wide, have central peaks. These craters have flow-like features and craters that impact on other craters, as well as chains of small craters. Bright areas are peppered across Ceres, with the most reflective ones on another place called Octor crater. Some crater shapes indicate water, ice on the subsurface. So you can see this is a really, really interesting dynamic surface. The dwarf planet's various crater forms are consistent with an outer shell for Ceres that is not purely ice or rock, but a mixture of both, a conclusion reflected in other analysis. The uneven distribution of craters indicates that the crust is not uniform and that Ceres has gone through a complex geological evolution. And I will stop there. Complex geological. Past and perhaps present. And our friend Justin Jackson appears to be joining us. And that's the main thing I love about this is whenever we now have the satellites, we're now being able to make better observations, more precise observations and things, and we're learning these places are, there's all kinds of stuff happening, geology happening, a volcano, an actual ice volcano on Ceres in the recent past, and you could have that kind of volcanic activity even occurring now. That's amazing and exciting.
It is. I have a little chatterbox here at the moment. So we were going to the shop. She wants to ride to the shop on her tricycle.
Off we go.
Off we go. We went to the shops this morning.
Chelsey, what's going to happen when Chelsey is growing up? You might live that long. I don't know if I will. She's gonna be going on the internet, and she's gonna get a live picture from Ceres, a live picture from the surface on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
That's wow. Science is exciting.
It is exciting. We're settling for a tricycle ride around the house now. Cup of tea. She's very British. So is Justin there or just his photo?
He probably popped in. He might very well be doing something.
Yeah, I'm on my way. I will be there very shortly.
Oh, he's there. He's probably on the toilet.
No, I'm not. How could I be on the toilet and talking to you from the living room? No, I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
He's driving or walking in his non-self-driving car. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Another thing that Chelsea's going to be able to do. She gets in her liver. The liver goes. Maybe she gets heart problems. I don't know. She's just going to make a telephone call. She's going to say, okay, guys, why don't you build me a new liver, build me a new heart, and they'll do that, and they'll build one for her. maybe they'll have her stem cells. She'll have to put her stem cells in a hospital. They'll take her stem cells out. They'll build her a liver out of her own stem cells, and she'll.
When she was born, I had her stem cells collected, and I paid $6,000 to store them for 25 years, and after that she can pay for additional longer. And so she has 1,700 million stem cells stored from her birth. The average collection is 300 million, but she had 1,700 million. So nearly 6 times the average. So she's fine. Yeah, because I have the whole placenta and umbilical cord stored with cell care. Because they're affiliated with Monash University, and I've been to Monash University.
I wonder how I'm that in the future this will become more common practice. I really don't know how widespread it is now. How did you hear about it?
I don't remember. I guess there's probably a pamphlet at the hospital or something. What's that, darling? What's that? So they let you pay it off over 2 years from birth, which I did. Like no interest or anything. And then that's it. It's stored for, until she's. You don't have to collect all. You can collect just umbilical cord because it's cheap. Like $6,000. That's the most expensive. But if you can store it for only 18 years instead of 25, that's cheaper. But I went for 25. And you can just do umbilical cord only, not placenta as well, and that's cheaper. But I just thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I did it for everything.
I wonder, I mean, you're talking about stem cells that are less differentiated than adult stem cells. So I wonder if that really could make them more superior for this kind of growing organs.
It's more universal. So for any family members who are also a match, they can be used. And because she has so many, she's got nearly 6 times the average collection. There's plenty for everyone if they're needed. So it's really a good investment. Yeah. I mean, it's like an insurance policy. I'm hoping that you never use them. But they're there, banked away in case.
No, that's a great idea, and I mean, we look at how growing organs in labs, this particular study will show, is becoming. It's not perfected now. It's still early stages, but it's becoming more perfected, and particularly, I think the liver is the easiest of the organs to regrow, because with a transplant, I think they only take like maybe a small portion of the liver.
Yeah, because it can grow to a full liver from a small portion. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. But I've had alcoholics, say to me, "Oh, but my liver regenerates, so I can drink as much as I want." Well, no, it does, but it regenerates from the cells that are there. So you're regenerating bad, unhealthy cells. So it doesn't work like that. That's why you have to, when you get liver disease, you have to cut the whole thing out and put a part of a healthy one in, and then that will grow to a full healthy one. But when I've explained that to alcoholics, they're like, they thought they were regenerating fresh cells. And, I mean, well, they are, but you know what I mean? They thought they were regenerating healthy cells. No, they're growing. Whatever you've got there, you're regenerating that crap.
And another thing it'll do is this terrible business of poor people selling their organs for money from poorer countries for richer countries, which is it's a thing. It's a way. It's a very common practice.
It is, and we from Western society we think it's atrocious to use people like that. But then those people are volunteering to do it because they need the money. So it's not a good thing, but from our perspective. But what are they going to? What are they going to do when that opportunity disappears? Then those people that were selling their organs for money can't do that. They're probably going to die of starvation anyway.
Yeah.
So the solution is not to stop the organ sale. It's to sorry, I'm distracted at the moment. It's to end poverty, which we could do if we stopped spending money on war. But that's another story.
Well, we're talking as these healthcare techniques, growing new organs, being able to, if you have a heart, clear out the plaque in your heart. Got another story about clearing out plaque in your brain for Alzheimer's, things like that. Think of all the money now spent on healthcare. Think of the United States, other countries where it's subsidized, where governments are spending, I think, billions of dollars of government tax money going towards healthcare, and it's growing. It's probably the fastest growing part of any budget. When you reach the point where you can cure health problems more quickly, diagnose them more quickly, think of the billions in dollars in tax money alone that'll be saved.
That's it.
Okay, let me go to the story while Chelsey has you engaged. And let me do the old screen share. Okay. All right. Okay. There's a picture of the scaffold on the left and the tissue-engineered liver on the right. And you can see stuff grew on the scaffold. And as the research team has generated functional human and mouse tissue engineered liver from adult stem and progenitor cells. Tissue-generated liver was found to contain normal, this is from the mice, that after the transplant happened, they found tissue-generated liver was found to contain normal structural components such as hepatocytes, Hepatocytes, bile ducts, and blood vessels. Conventional liver transplants require scarce donor liver and a perfusion protocol that waste many cells. Well, there you go. Waste a lot of cells, so Chelsey maybe needs those 100,000 plus cells. This type of cell transplant typically lasts less than a year, with most patients ultimately requiring a liver transplant. Human-induced pluripotent stem cells are another possibility, but iPS cells have remained immature rather than developing into functional and proliferative liver cells. Call this hepatocytes. There continues to be a need for a doable treatment, which this research is suggesting. Based on the success of the lab-generated tissue-engineered intestine and the other cell types, we hypothesized that by modifying the protocol used to generate intestines, we will be able to develop liver organoid units that could generate functional tissue-generated liver when transplanted. And this is Tracy Gerkscheit, who works at the Sabine Research Institute. It's actually Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And the research team generated liver organoid units, called LOU, from human and mouse liver, and implanted both varieties of LOU into MURINE, murine models. Tissue-generated liver developed from the human and mouse LOU with cell types required for function included patent ducts, bile cells, and blood vessels, stellate cells, and endothelial cells. However, the cellular organization differed from native liver tissue. So there's still work to be done. Human albumin, ALBUMIN, the main type of protein in the blood, was detected in the host mouse serum, indicating that in vivo secreting function from the human-derived tissue-engineered liver was working. From the mouse model of liver failure, tissue-engineered liver was able to provide some heptic functioning. So the mouse model worked better than the human model. That's really a first step. Progress.
Yes, we will soon cure all disease known to mouse.
It's teeny tiny steps for mankind, huge jump for the mice.
So I eavesdropped a little of this. What was this horrible, terrible thing I heard about the alcoholic liver, damaged liver, only regenerating more damaged liver? That can't possibly be true.
No, I've had this conversation with, because the liver regenerates.
Yeah, so you always got more liver on the way.
Yeah, right. So if you get a transplant, you only need a little bit, and it grows into a nice, big, healthy liver, right?
Yeah, right.
So I've had alcoholic friends say, "Oh, but I can drink as much as I want because it just grows fat."
Fresh liver on the way. Right?
It's like, yeah, it does, but it's growing based on the cells that are there. So if they're damaged cells, it's just going to replace damaged cells.
Well, yeah, you want to replace the damaged cells. That's exactly what you want.
Damaged cells, because
why are those ones damaged?
Because that's what happens.
That's not fair.
But I've had so many people that they look devastated when I explain this to them. They go,
I'm feeling a lot slightly devastated. I mean, I don't think I possibly could have drinking enough. Not even sure what the verbiage is. I drink soft like I'm having wine tonight. I'm not drinking hard liquor. I'm not trying to hurt my liver. I'm drinking those things that are, I think, easily digestible by the liver. But still, I didn't know that.
But it's just so, I shouldn't laugh, but it's just so funny, the looks on people's faces. They go, oh, and they're calculating, how much have I had to drink for the last 30 years? Oh my God. Yeah.
And earlier, Pamela was talking about something she did with Chelsey's stem cells.
Mm-hmm.
I never really had heard about. Now, you're an American like me. Have you ever? Go ahead, Pamela, explain this, and then I'd like Justin to know if he had ever heard about it. And it sounds like a great idea.
I think there's 3 different companies here in Australia that do it, but I went with Cell Care because they're affiliated with a university that I've been to here.
Is it the umbilical cord stem cell?
Yeah, and placenta, yeah.
Yeah. No, they totally do that. That's totally available here in the States. We invented it, probably. I think we were probably doing it well before it was in third world countries, like Australia.
Yeah, right.
And it was one of those things like, okay, so my, I think my brother-in-law did it with all 4 of his kids. I think Kiki might have done this, in fact. But partly I'm a cheapskate. But partly I was also at the point where my kids are coming along. It was like, well, I think for the oldest one, it might not have quite, like they would try to freeze it or something. They weren't sure if it would work. It was like up there with cryogenics. But then by the time the second child was coming along, we were already getting into pluripotent stem cells from adult skin cells. And I'm like, well, does it actually even matter at the point when this child is older that will they actually need their own stem cells for anything? And I still think like maybe it's a fantastic precautionary thing, but ultimately it may be completely unnecessary.
Yeah, well, I said to Ed, it's $6,000. that I thought it's an insurance policy. I hope we never have to use it, because that means she's sick. So I hope that they do go. Well, you know, they won't go to waste. They'll just go to someone else eventually. But I've stored them for 25 years, and if she wants them stored after that, she can pay for it. But one of the reasons that I was enthusiastic about doing it is because one of my friends died of leukemia at 27, so she got leukemia at about 24. And
there is such a thing as childhood leukemia too. I mean, this is like these things happen. Yeah.
And my friend was biracial and adopted, and so by the time she
no relatives to tap into,
by
or
the
no
time
history of.
And they thought, oh great, she's found relatives, but no one was a match anyway. So she was she was the product of an affair, so she only had half siblings, and no one matched. So I just thought, well, I wouldn't. I mean, it's just an insurance policy.
Yeah.
But my friend would be alive today if she had her own collective, which of course wasn't available 36 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope they do go to waste and Chelsea never uses them.
Yeah, and with one, Justin's absolutely right. The progress is little steps, but it's becoming more mature. So right now, like with these liver cells, growing liver cells on a scaffold, and they sort of kind of work on mice, not really showing, well, actually, you couldn't do it in a human. You got to do it on the mouse first. But that's going to be perfected. So you're talking 15 years maybe, 10, 15 years, which for a child is born today is not that long. And since this is exponential usually, when I think it'll be 5 or 10 years, it might be just 5 years. I don't know. I got one question because I immediately think of, it was a singer, female singer, who's a lesbian, and her partner.
Joan Jett, Pat Benatar.
No. and they selected
Bette Midler.
No. Sperm donor.
Cher.
No.
Madonna?
I can't even think of a popular song. I really like her too, but I can't think of her name. But they selected
Joan Baez. Joan Baez.
She's not. I don't know who's a lesbian and who's not a lesbian. Actually, everybody's a little bit homosexual and everybody's a little bit gay. Anyway, whatever. Okay. They selected the sperm from David Crosby. David Crosby's a freaking. He's getting better. He had a liver transplant, and they selected his sperm.
Not when you're talking like somebody who won the DNA lottery. Crosby does not come to mind. Just gonna throw that out there.
His sperm could be fine. Just because he's damaged his liver doesn't mean it's hereditary.
I don't know. He has some other personality disorders, perhaps. That's the way to put it. He had 97 guns around his house. I think he talked about thinking about committing suicide. I don't know. I'm with Justin. He's really not on the top of the list.
He might have an inheritable mental illness. Sure.
Could be. Could have also been drug. I don't know.
But who doesn't? Like half society does.
Something's like clickety clacking into the audio.
Oh, sorry. You know what? I was just fiddling with my microphone. That was my nail.
Yeah, stop. Sorry. You're still quit. So half of everybody has what is percentage of
Well,
what are you talking about?
They reckon that 14. Oh, you can look it up. 49% of Australians have a mental illness.
Well, that I would agree with. I think that might even be lowballing it by a bit.
So if you're not crazy, someone you love is. Right.
Well, right, but I mean but in Australia it makes sense because they took those who were criminals, who likely were so not out of necessity, but out of some sort of mental illness, because they didn't really scan for that back in the day, and they put all the mentally ill on a boat and they sent them to Australia. So the fact that it's only 50% seems like positive immigration policies.
Only 12% of people alive today have convict DNA, so you can't blame the convicts.
See, don't forget, in Australia, they're upside down. So if you take a crazy person from the United States and they go to Australia,
Totally
they're probably sane.
You're totally sane.
You know?
Yeah. Think that's how that works.
No. I swear that's not how it works. Anyway, so.
It would be great to get off a plane in Australia and be like, whoa, whoa. Start doing handstands or something. Like, I'm falling. The gravity's in the wrong direction.
So what's going to happen? I'm going to be there in about 50 weeks. Am I going to fall over?
50 weeks? That's a year from now.
It's under a year.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I would bring ankle weights just in case. Strap some sandbags to the shins, just in case.
All right. Yeah, I'm coming to the eclipse.
This is a perfect segue into my story about the spatial advantages tall people have. So.
Oh, I don't know if I already disagree with this, and all I've heard is the premise of the stories.
Yeah, me too. But go on. We already talked about this before the show.
Here's what it says. These are people from Ohio State University. This is Tang Ling Oi. I don't know. It's not like a T. Sorry. Okay. New research shows. When we say research, you're talking about a study for 24 people, 12 tall people, 12 short people. Not a big study. Okay. New research shows that tall people are better than short people at correctly identifying the location of targets in their middle distant vision between 3 and 20 meters away. And this visual superiority holds true even when tall people sit down and their shorter counterparts stand on a box. The research supports the idea that height comes better spatial relations. Maybe taller athletes have advantages on the field, especially in sports such as tennis and football. Spatial relations are a person's ability to place something in relation to the other objects around them. Our eyes alone aren't sufficient to adequately assess the space around us, and the researchers believe that the brain makes up for the eye's deficiencies by applying built-in knowledge for determining where things are in space. This becomes even more important in the dark. To test participants' ability to judge the location of a target, the researchers had these 12 short people and 12 tall people predict distances in 3 different settings. Full light, a pitch black room with a green LED target light at the distance, and in darkness with dimly lit red LED markers either on the floor or on the ceiling as a reference. In the dark experiments, after a study, participants saw the target. The researchers removed the green light and asked the subject to walk and to point out that target location. The tall subjects weren't perfectly accurate, but they fared much better overall than the shorter participants when it came to assessing the location of targets that were further away. That could be because they spent a lifetime of looking at the ground from a higher vantage point. Taller people have a better perspective of the ground. A better perspective of the ground. For example, if you're looking at 2 traffic cones, one directly in front of the other, about 50 feet away, the distance between the two will be more apparent from a 6-foot height than from a 4-foot height. Because of this, the collaborators predicted that taller people would more accurately perceive the distance between themselves and a target in the distance. And they wondered if tall people would outdo shorter people. And researchers have long favored the theory that people rely most heavily on the ground to help them determine the distance of an object in their immediate vision. Had not known that or even thought about it.
And that does, it makes good sense, you know. Yeah. So now I buy it. After all that protest, I now buy this. I get it. So that little bit of height difference, because really, you know, what's a foot or two amongst friends? But that the angle at which you're looking downwards with the ground and as reference, you may have much better perspective from that higher perspective. Yeah, it makes sense. I dig it.
But what we were talking about before, Ed, like now you've just specified 6 foot compared to 4 foot, but we were talking about you know, differences in races. You know, like for example, in Australia, I'm a short woman. In Singapore, I'm a medium to tall woman. Mm-hmm. So what is short versus tall?
Shorter than the taller people in the study, I think, is all that really means. Like, yeah.
So that's what I mean. The study doesn't specify age.
It's not gonna tell you that you're short based on your height. I mean, okay. So from that context, I get it. Like being a couple feet taller than somebody else, being able to see. I don't know how much further you actually see, but perhaps that is part of it. But when you're looking down, there's a much bigger difference in the angle that you're looking down at. 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards are going to be, those angles are going to be more pronounced than if you're closer to the ground. If you're closer to the ground, the angle at which you're viewing those differences of distance is going to be smaller. So that might be sort of what creates that ability to better predict and project that.
An interesting thing is that it seems like this is an ability that is developed over time, because the second experiment, they had the tall people sit down and the short people stand up. So the eye level of the shorter people was above that of the tall people in the second experiment. Same results. So you're talking about something hardwired in the brain, or something that becomes hardwired in the brain as you grow.
So that's what I was saying. That it doesn't take into account age. So you could be 6 foot tall at 18, and you could be 6 foot tall at 68. And is the 68-year-old going to have more accuracy than the 18-year-old?
Fair question. Yeah, that's interesting. It's a whole different question.
We shrink as we grow, as we get older. I'm at least a half an inch shorter now than I was 40, 50 years ago.
And maybe it has nothing to do with this angle of perspective, the angle at which the ground appears from different heights. And has everything to do with bumping into things if you're bigger, and having it be much more important to know the physical dimensions of the space that you're inhabiting. But I like that angle. I like the angle thing, because I can visualize how the 5, 10, 15, 20 yard angle differs more drastically at 6 feet tall than it would at 4 feet tall. So I'll go along with it just for that. I mean, that's what they found. So whenever they study people, there's always room to be sort of like, there were people that they studied.
There's only 24 people studied. I mean, I'd be more interested in 24,000 people. But
and we all would grow up developing abilities based on our own height, let's say. We're all going to learn how to better judge stuff. If you talk about, I can't judge, I don't back up. But I never do. If I did it a lot, I would become more competent at it. So I'm learning, and something I'm rewiring almost my brain to be able to better gauge distances and things. So I'm sure it does, in fact, change over time.
That's what I mean. Okay, so even if an 18-year-old was 6 foot tall, and by 68 they shrank a quarter of an inch or something, but they've got 50 years of experience on the 18-year-old, aren't they still going to be better at it? So that's what I'd like to see more about the study, the age differences. Yeah, and I mean, in races too. I mean, a 6 foot Chinese person is really tall, whereas a 6 foot, white US or Australian person is not that exceptional.
Oh yeah, there's so many factors that involve height. As I say, each generation being a healthier generation, in those places where that's true, each generation gets taller. And spatial relationships. The article, this is Ohio State University, big football school, where you get the quarterback, the tall quarterbacks, and really, usually quarterbacks are taller. And there are some successful shorter quarterbacks, but they really have a much more difficult time because, they have a harder time seeing down the field. So I could see that in a sport like football. And I have my iPad over here, and my iPad is picking up while I'm talking and wants to know if I want to know anything about spatial differences in short people.
Is that that's Cere? I've turned it off. Is that what it is?
No, it's mine. It's Cere on my iPad.
That's what I mean. Yeah, Cere on your iPad. Yeah, I don't. I turned mine off. I don't have it active on my iPad.
All right.
I find Cere annoying.
But I'm going to jump into the next story. Justin should be back shortly. And first I'm going to talk about another health advance, another step in dealing with an illness that is really affecting more and more people, in this particular case, as we live longer and longer, and that's Alzheimer's. And let me screen share that with you. Okay. All right. Now there's this protein. I'm going to take a stab at pronouncing it. It's AUD, Odcanumab, or something like that. It's a new antibody, and it's shown to trigger a meaningful reduction of harmful beta amyloid plaques in patients with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. These protein deposits in the brain are classical signs of Alzheimer's and contribute to progressive degeneration of brain cells. The researchers furthermore demonstrated in an early clinical study that after 1 year of treatment with this antibody, cognitive decline could be significantly slowed in antibody-treated patients as opposed to a placebo group. So here you're talking about clinical human studies. Researchers have been able to show that this particular protein, it's a human monoclonal antibody, selectively binds to brain amyloid plaques, thus enabling microglia cells to remove the plaques. A 1 year treatment with the antibody as part of this phase 1 study resulted in almost complete clearance of the brain amyloid plaques in the study group patients. And the antibody was developed with the help of a technology platform called Neuroimmune, using blood collected from elderly persons aged up to 100 years old. Ooh, want those stem cells. And demonstrating no cognitive impairment. Wow! 100 years old in some cases and no cognitive impairment. Wow. The researchers isolated precisely those immune cells whose antibodies are able to identify toxic beta amyloid plaques, but not the amyloid precursor protein that is present throughout the human body and that presumably plays an important role in growth of nerve cells. The good safety profile of these patients may well be attributed to the antibody's specific capacity to bind with abnormally folded brain amyloid protein fragment, as well as the fact that the antibody is of human origin. And they were dealing with 165 patients with early stage Alzheimer's disease in this study. Although not initially planned as a primary study objective, the good results encourage researchers to additionally investigate how the treatment affected symptoms of the disease. This was evaluated via standard questionnaires to assess the cognitive ability and everyday activities of the patient. This particular protein, going to give it another shot, aducanumab, or aducanumab, also showed positive effects on clinical symptoms. While patients in the placebo group exhibited significant cognitive decline, cognitive ability remained distinctly more stable in patients receiving the antibody. I had 165 people. Wow. So you've got an antibody.
So do you think we've cured it? And they're not too distant. Yeah.
We've certainly taken a step towards curing it. Okay, we've identified a protein, an antibody, and they have identified, I think, adequately, that this antibody will, in fact, it'll bind to the amyloid plaques, and then your, what do they call it, microglia cells go target in on that plaque and remove it. I would say this study, 165 people, 82 in the group getting the antibody, 82 or 3 not getting it. I would say that's a pretty good indication that they know this process. Whether there's more to the process, we got to find out. But they really helped the cognitive ability of at least 80 people. And it seemed like everybody who got that antibody treatment showed some cognitive improvement. So this wasn't my study. This is on, clinical study on people. And I think we talk about the immune system, and this is kind of like an immune response, where you're seeing more cancer research, which is targeting in on the human immune response, and taking advantage and using the human immune response to treat cancer. And this really seems somewhat similar, that immune response, and being able to help our own immune system target the cancer or target these plaques. And I got to tell you, people I had this conversation on Facebook. The number in people in my age bracket, the number one fear is Alzheimer's, not death. It's Alzheimer's and a loss of cognitive ability. That's the number one fear.
It's mine too at 43. It's like terrifying.
Yeah. Well, you see.
Actually, I can relate to that a little bit because it was mine at just before I turned 34 is when I gave birth to Chelsea. And when they come along to do the epidural, which didn't work, by the way, but that's another story. And then they had to do it again in my spine when I had to go for cesarean. So I had 2 punctures in my spine for pain relief. They had to do it the spiel. You know, there's like a 1 in 180,000 chance or something that you can be left paralyzed and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I don't need the spiel. I know the risks. I don't care if you have to cut my spinal cord and I'm in a wheelchair at the end of it. No, I meant it. I said, because of none of the pain relief was working, my blood pressure was spiking. I was feeling like just here I was going to have a stroke if they didn't do something, right? And I said, my daughter needs, like, if I was in a wheelchair, that's perfectly fine by me as long as I have my brain.
Right.
But if I have a stroke and my brain's gone, then that's no good to my daughter. And I meant it. I said, I don't care if I leave this hospital in a wheelchair as long as my daughter and I get out of this, alive and well otherwise. And he went, alrighty then. And he jabbed. So that saved him doing the spiel. But I really meant it. So, yeah, my number one fear would be losing cognition at least for the next 14 years until my daughter's old enough to look after herself. Don't care if I'm in a wheelchair. Don't care if I have a colostomy bag as long as I've got my brain.
The other encouraging thing when I first started talking about the study is they started getting these antibodies from people who are 90 to 100 years old. That means the people they started with were 90 up to 100 years old with zero cognitive defects. Wow. And I think, things like this is going to be more and more true. We're not only living longer, we're living better. Just think, Justin, you can be selling cars at 100.
Oh,
Wow.
stop. Oh, stop. Oh, don't do this to me. I don't want to be selling cars on tomorrow, let alone doing this for the next rest of my life and then some. No.
And then some? You mean after you're dead?
Well, no, he said till 100, and that's like it's like repeating the entire life that I've had and then some, all in the car business. I will have had my spoke word rough meaning language.
Yeah, I know, I got it.
But yeah, no. So this is the problem, though, right? Then they're gonna say, well, retirement should happen at age 80. like we're gonna keep pushing out when Social Security kicks in, to the point where, yeah, maybe if you have the best healthcare, you'll make it there. But there'll be a good percentage of folks that really should have been retired at 50, still, and then amongst us, who are gonna die at work because they have no choice. There's always a non-silver lining to any good news, I suppose.
Wow.
I don't know how much Australian political news makes it to
Zero.
you, but
Zero. Absolutely none.
probably. Okay.
Just absolutely none. So it's clear. We have no idea. We actually forget you're there.
Okay. Well, then I'll tell you. So we have Senator Darren Hinch. Now, Darren Hinch has been a journalist. He's been locked up for not revealing sources in his earlier years. He's had liver cancer. He's done all sorts of things. In his 70s, he's now, I think he's 73. He's just become a senator. And there was he was a radio host for many decades. Anyway, there was a big thing because he fell asleep in Parliament the other day.
So he's
anyway,
very lucky. He's very lucky he's not in North Korea. Because the senior member of parliamentary whatever bullshit title they give in charge of education fell asleep during a meeting and was put in front of a firing squad. Yeah, that happened, I think, today.
Oh my goodness, no. Okay, I didn't know that.
So anyway, so he fell asleep, and they were like, "Hey, wake up."
No, well, someone took a photo of him asleep in Parliament and tweeted it, and anyway, so there were health concerns about him, right? And he's like, no, it was 3:30, and what he used to do, because he'd do like morning.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Because of his radio program, he had a bed, like for decades, he had a bed in his studio, and that would when he'd have a nap between shows, because he was so hard. He's always been hardworking. Like he actually says, "I'll never retire. I will work until I die."
Yeah.
There is no retirement age for this man. Nothing stops him. And anyway, so the next time he tweeted a photo of himself being the first person in Parliament. He said, "Damn, no cameras today," so he had to take his own photo. But anyway, so he doesn't want to retire, and I think I'll be like that. I mean, I don't know. Ask me again in 40 years.
Right.
But you know, I mean, Ed, you talk about being retired, but you're not really, because you do stuff. You're not out playing golf. You're still improving yourself.
Well, that's why you just changed the word work to hobby. Same thing. You're spending your time doing what you like doing. And that's, two things are going to happen. The robot overlords are just going to kill us or turn us into slaves, or they're going to do all the hard, nasty work and free us up to be creative. You know?
Okay. So, Ed, this is every socialist's dream. But this is also the problem with being in a capitalist society as this happens. Because what increasingly is going to happen is the person that owns the robot that does all the hard work will get paid as though labor was being done by many, many people. And other people will just be out of work. They'll defend for themselves.
There's always going to be a need for people. And
no, there isn't. No, there isn't, and we're already getting there. We're already past peak labor in America, or peak human.
Well, look at research. You have citizen scientists. And
look at research, Ed. Now they have computers that are crunching numbers and doing algorithms to the point where they're getting rid of entire buildings full of scientists.
No. Yeah, they're leaving the scientists to do the creative work.
What they're doing is we don't want any more creative work. We want more analysis.
No. I think it's going to be a fantastic future. Now, I don't know that it'll be on Earth. That'll get you. It might be that Martian colony or that colony on Ceres that we talked about earlier, but that's a dynamic environment. So maybe on Earth, maybe yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to guarantee you that this perfect world I'm talking about is going to happen on Earth necessarily. But I see the robots as our friend, and certainly no worse than people. I mean, the self-driving car, now it's not perfected because the stupid algorithms can't say, oh, gee, is that a truck? I don't know. That's no truck. That's no truck coming. You know, bang. Yeah, what's that stuff on the road? Just go ahead. It happens to be ice.
No problem.
No problem. So it's a self-drive, but when it gets perfected, I trust a robot, an algorithm driving a car over a person driving a car.
Depends on the person, though, and depends on the algorithm, right?
I got a story. You segue me into a story. I got two stories, and these are about the Great Barrier Reef. That's why I wanted to talk about them, because we got an Australian here. Now, the first story, I got to tell you one thing about Australians are terrific researchers, very dynamic. I don't know that they see so well. Because
wait, hang on, and I apologize for interrupting. You say there's researchers in Australia. Is that really true? Or did you make that up?
No, there are. There's actual science being done.
I know that there's science being done in Australia, but you indicated, or at least implied, that it was being done by Australians, which I find hard to believe.
I believe, Pamela, you're in Queensland? Okay, this is the Queensland University of Technology.
They're in
Yes.
Brisbane. Yeah.
They got the technologies in Australia. Come on.
They do. Okay, well, no, this is just news to me. I had no idea. My vision of Australia is people hoarding gasoline in sort of metal shanty towns that they've constructed out of the aftermath of a civilization that may have existed at one point somewhere else. So basically everything I know about Australia comes from the Mad Max movies.
Yeah, I still haven't seen any of them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're not going to be accurate. No.
What
Okay, so I apologize, Ed, for pausing in the middle of your story.
That's okay.
So we can't see very well, apparently.
I don't want to digress into a whole political thing just yet. Got a couple of stories, we can do it later. But I have to mention, okay, in Australia, you got your politicians falling asleep.
Okay, pause it right there. Pause it right there. There's politicians in Australia, too? Like, they have a government? This is also... You're really blowing my mind tonight, Ed. My vision of what Australia is apparently very different than reality. Government and science are two things I didn't think could possibly exist in that environment. But proceed. I apologize. I digress.
That's okay. I'm going to want to go on to the science stories for anybody watching. But I would just say, look up Paul LePage. Do a little Google search on the Googles for Paul LePage. He's the governor of an entire state. So, okay. Let's go on to my two stories about the reef, the Great Barrier Reef. And you guys in Australia, you not only have one reef, you now got two.
Greedy.
Yes, it is. Okay. God. There we go. Scientists discover a second Great Barrier. How in the world did you guys in Australia miss an entire freaking reef? I don't know.
What have I been trying to tell you,
hard.
Ed? No government, no science. This is how it happens.
I've been snorkeling on it, but I didn't see a second reef.
There it is. There's somebody snorkeling.
Yeah, I've snorkeled. I can't scuba dive.
Okay. Well, it turns out the Great Barrier Reef is actually much larger than previously thought. Scientists have discovered a second reef located just north of the Great Barrier Reef. The newly discovered reef lies deep below the surface, and it's up to 50 meters in some cases. Contains a field of large donut-shaped structures. All right, getting back to the politicians again with the donuts. Whatever. The discovery was led by a research team from James Cook University and Queensland University using radar data from the Australian Navy. Australia's got a Navy.
Blowing my mind again, Ed.
We've known about these geological structures in the northern Great Barrier Reef since the 70s or 80s, but never before has the true nature of their shape, size, and vast scale been revealed. Now, the second reef is made of something called bioherms, which are circular mounds made of a green algae called halimeda, Halimeda, that calcify as it dies and forms limestone flakes that accumulate over the years. Slightly different process than the Great Barrier Reef. And then over the past 100 years, this particular, it says the Halimeda has created a massive reef that covers 202,353 square miles, running from the Torres Strait between Australia and New Guinea to north of Port Douglas, 3 times the previous estimated size. And they form the...
So in my defense, I haven't snorkeled that far north. Port Douglas is about an hour drive north of where I snorkeled. So there you go. I couldn't see it. And it's just so you know, it's pronounced Torres Strait.
Okay.
I like the Tories, but a bunch of lawyers at the bottom of the ocean just makes me happy. I don't know why. But this isn't as big as the Great Barrier Reef, and I think there's just because you're neighbors doesn't make you can't imply. I mean, this you could call it the mediocre, obstruction reef or something, but not another Great Barrier Reef. But something like this, it's weird. It's like whenever I hear something like this, and I don't mean like second barrier reefs specifically, but sort of like, oh, actually the impact of mankind has improved the ecology in a very specific but limited sort of way that we're going to define it here as we tell this story. Human impact benefits ecology and the environment. I wonder if this story isn't bullshit. Like that's the part of my brain that threw up a flag and said, "Hey, what if this is bullshit?" And it's like a petroleum company funding this research that says, "Don't worry about the Great Barrier Reef. They got a backup. They got 2 of them. Don't worry about it. We can keep doing whatever the F we're doing that's screwing up the first one, because there's a whole other one that you ain't even heard about, but it's there, trust me." Like, and maybe I'm just too cynical and this, middle-agedness brained, like, thinking of things. But that's the first thing that occurred to me.
You see, what we have here is a good mix. We've got Pamela's 30-ish, optimistic, really sharp brain. Now we got the 40-ish. 40-ish kind of brain, getting a little bit frayed around the edges. And then you got the old guy's brain. I don't know anything that's going on. I think this is all terrific. Oh, well.
I would have to see it myself to believe it, really, or maybe I'll venture up north and have a look.
They showed you a picture. Come on. You showed a picture.
Just believe it. Don't look any further. What if it's not there? Then you're ruining Australia.
What this actually shows to me is how little we know about the oceans. My God, I mean, that's the 70% of the planet or something, and how little we know about it. Here is this structure, over 2,000 square miles, and you have these particular kinds of, I'll call them corals. They grow a little bit differently. They're made out of algae. At the center, algae dies. But here's this living, can't say it's living, breathing, kind of a structure that's been there. It's been, they actually said what they're going to do is they're going to use it to measure past climates under the ocean. Don't know how they're going to do it, but that's one of the things they're going to do. They can go back 10,000 years.
Yeah, because calcium formations capture and encapsulate the environment in which they're created, and through, I don't know, some sort of radioactive isotopic blah-de-de-blah. They can, but it's sort of like creating every layer of calcified anything in the seafloor is creating time capsules that can be matched with other areas on the planet, that can be matched with the environment going backwards, with radioactive decay going backwards. This is another great place to do that sort of. Makes sense.
But
Nothing I said makes sense, but the story makes sense to me.
It could be a positive thing in a way, because the original Great Barrier Reef that we know about has
broken.
It's broken, but we're trying to protect it from a lot of commercial fishing, right? And the area you've described, Port Douglas to the Torres Strait, is a commercial fishing area. So this, maybe we can stop a bit of commercial fishing happening if we have to protect a reef up there for scientific purposes, for researching back to the last ice age to show how close the next ice age is.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. It's all just politics.
Creating an environment that will be helpful for the Great Barrier Reef to recover, yes. There's only one thing stopping that, and that's commercial interest in politics.
Yeah. But we're not cynical or anything.
A little bit, maybe, just saying. Yeah, good reason.
All right.
Yeah.
Not without reason.
Not even the next story I was going to go into, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. What it comes down to is you have people studying reefs, and they're collecting a lot of data is what it comes down to. This one person has, 1 million pictures of reefs and information stored, millions. Not enough time to go through it. So another group of researchers built an algorithm, an algorithm that could quickly scan. And when I say quickly, I mean taking maybe a month, but it can certainly more quickly scan the data and throw up numbers for the researchers. The researchers then don't have to do the grunt work. They can simply look at the final product. Maybe they can even ask certain questions, do some specialized research. So I had it in here as an example of how computer technology is really helping scientific research, where the algorithm, the computers are doing the grunt work, and it's saving. Well, who's going to get out of work is a bunch of those grunts in the labs, I guess, because we don't need them. But still, it means the human can spend more time analyzing the data and making, creative insights, I guess.
If we're still needed for this. Oh, it's getting so soon.
Well, you're talking about, paper's falling apart here. In any event, you're gone. I don't know what happened. I got my study here. I'm going to read ahead, and all of a sudden, nobody.
I was going to help you pick up your papers, but you got to them first.
I smelled something, and I'm just checking to see if I have to take someone to the potty.
Ooh.
By the time you smell it, it's too late.
You know what you need? You need a robotic analyzer sensor.
No, she gets
in the house, a little sensor, and you put the sensor on Chelsey, and it analyzes sense, and it tells you, do you need to take it to a potty?
No, she just come up and said poops. But sometimes she's just
come
farting.
on, that's so much easier.
Yeah, she farts. It's like she gets this from her dad. He punctuates sentences with his farts, and she gets it from him.
There are places I could go to I do not want to go to out there. I'm thinking of that. I'm going to go there. The CIS Nevada had a segment about a fetish, grown men who like to have, these infantile fantasy, and that's where these grown men walking around with diapers and sucking their thumb, and the prostitutes were trying to help them out, and whatever.
And
if I could edit that out, I would.
Thank you.
I'm going to break.
I hate it when you talk about things that we've talked about off air on the actual show. It's always like, Ed, that was in the vault, man. I told you that in an absolute, I thought at least, discretion, but apparently not. Apparently it's everything you tell Ed, just so everybody's aware, Anything you tell that is absolute fodder for the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, now I know. Now I know.
It's fine. And yeah, no, you didn't. Yeah, it's all right. But no, I wasn't talking about anything like that. Not that he's not into that, as far as I know.
Okay, quickly jumping ahead into this next very interesting story. We hear continually about the bad humans destroying the environment. Now, these researchers, what they found was a First Nation group that was in British Columbia some 13,000 years ago who actually enhanced the environment. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. The coastal First Nations had the opposite effect, enhancing temperate rainforest productivity. Andrew Trent, professor of the Faculty of the Environment of the University of Waterloo. No idea where that is. The researchers combined remote sensing, ecological, and archaeological data from coastal sites where First Nations have lived for thousands of years. It shows trees growing at former habitation sites are taller, wider, and healthier than those in the surrounding area. These forests are thriving from the relationship with coastal First Nations. For more than 13,000 years, the First Nation tribe have transformed this landscape. So this area, at first glance, seems pristine and wild, is actually highly modified and enhanced as a result of human behavior. This is the interesting part. Fishing of intertidal shellfish intensified in the area over the past 6,000 years, resulting in the accumulation of deep shell trenches, in some cases more than 5 meters deep and covering thousands of square miles of forest area. The long-term practice of harvesting shellfish and depositing remnants inland has contributed significant marine-derived nutrients to the soil as shells break down, releasing calcium over time. The work found that this disposal and stockpiling of shells, as well as the people's use of fire, altered the forest through increased soil pH and important nutrients, and also improved soil drainage. The research is the first to find long-term use of intertidal resources enhancing forest productivity. That the results alter the way we think about time and environmental impact.
See, it's good when you cut down the forest. Yeah, it actually makes the forest better when you knock it down. Red flag. Red flag. But it could be true. It could be true. Still, it throws up the red flag.
I don't know. There are...
Well, so there's actually like, okay, so if you take like pine trees with the pine cones and everything, the way in which pine cones reseed themselves is they explode. They go, and they launch those seeds a great distance, and they embed themselves in in the soil, and they grow new trees. But the only thing that makes a pine cone explode is a fire. That's when they blow up. That's when they explode. That's when they launch those seeds. So the forest, a forest is really designed to be destroyed and rebuild itself. I mean, this is the cycle. Lightning strike, pre-humanity meant a roaring forest fire with all sorts of dead growth on the ground as kindling, and everything burned, and it would So yeah, Forests are designed to get knocked down and get up again. This is what they do.
When we talk about humans' impact on the environment, and as far as I'm concerned, we're just one species. And some of the things we do help some species, hurt others. I don't see us as ever destroying an environment. We simply change it. The only issue for me is, do we change it for the better for us or for the worse of us? Now, obviously, some of the changes we're making, not so good for humans. But you don't necessarily know the full, well, I was going to say something else, but you don't really know the full impact humans will have on the environment until the future. You take, for instance, my brain is leaping around here, but diversity is a big thing. The claim is that human-created environments have less biodiversity than the more natural environment. I'm not convinced that's the case. I think you can say that First Nation groups, indigenous people, were much more aware of the environment and made a greater attempt to acclimate themselves to the environment instead of modern humans trying to change the environment the way we think it should be. That I go along with. The problem being, we think we know how the environment should be changed better for us, when in fact we are too often making it worse for us. But at the same time, you look at a prairie. Prairies that the European Americans came into and basically wiped out. You had huge prairies. You had tons and tons of millions and millions of buffalo on that territory. And the First Nation group, the Native American Indians, used that resource. Modern humans came along and built railroads. Well, you don't want buffalo herds around railroad tracks. So what do? You kill all the buffalo. All right, and you build up cities. But I will make the claim that the biodiversity on the Great Plains may have been less diverse than that of the biodiversity in a major city. I will make the claim, completely, I'm not a researcher, I don't know. I will make the claim you will find you'll certainly find more living creatures in an urban environment and in a big city than you will out in a forest. And I think you will even find, with so many different varied environments, even within cities, might find a greater diversity of life in a city. The Australian plains, right? You have your big desert territory. So comparing the biodiversity, oops, Pamela had to run away. Look, I think somebody's calling her on her cell phone, is my guess. But the question I would have is the biodiversity on the American Great Plains or on the Australian desert, is that more diverse than big city America or big city Australia? Obviously, Pamela can't answer me.
But when you're talking about diversity, you're like, I think you can largely carbon copy. You know, pigeons will do well. Crows will do well. Scrub jays out here on the West Coast. Scrub jays, crows. San Francisco's got a lot of pigeons. New York has pigeons. You know, I mean, like, but is it a diversity? But where's the fox? Where's the bison? Where's the bobcat? or the cougar.
There's foxes in cities.
Yeah, there's raccoons at least, but
There's a lot of foxes in cities. In fact, that just not to I am interrupting you. Sorry.
No,
but
that's fine. No,
you know where they're going?
Fair play.
Tires. You know where people throw away their tires? This was like, I don't know, this was in a hangout where you had a male fox had 2 families, and each family, they were using the tires as like their little tunnel wherever the heck they grow, and he had 2 families. He's running back and forth. So you have foxes in cities. Sorry.
Lucky fox.
Sorry, I thought Chelsey was going to tip over, but she's all right. She was just being aggressive on her tricycle. What were you asking me about the Australian plains?
Whether it's more diverse in cities or in the outback.
Well, it'd have to be cities because they're on the coast where there's vegetation, because the outback's just desert.
There you go.
That's just my own personal observation. That's not me being scientific about it, but that's just, I've been to the cities on the coast, and I've been to the outback, and there's nothing in the outback except a lot of sand.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
And dinosaurs.
Hello. Oh, look.
Come this way. Come this way. I think she needs a nap.
Comes.
Needs a nap.
Okay. There's a story here. Had a couple of stories in the a good story, I think, a positive story, and a positive negative story. I'll talk about we were talking about Australia. Well, Australia's had amazing success with vaccines. The United States, not so much. And in this particular case, we're talking about the HPV virus. And I am going to, come on, screen share. Lovely dresses. Okay. The world's first cancer vaccine was administered in Australia exactly 10 years ago. Since then, this HPV vaccine has been rolled out across 130 countries, and it's halved the number of new cervical cancers.
Wow.
Professor Ian Fraser said the vaccine could eradicate cancers caused by HPV within 40 years. If we vaccinated enough people, we will eliminate these viruses because they only infect humans. In Australia, there's already been a 90% reduction in infections in the 10 years since the program has been running. This particular HPV is a very common virus, lives on our skin and other areas. Most people get rid of it, the virus themselves. They don't even know they had it. But 1% of the population get persistent infections, and if they last over 5 years, they're very likely to have it to turn into cancer. We know that 170 million doses of the vaccine have been given out. If you do the sums, 1 in 100 people who were going to get a cancer that could have killed them were saved by this vaccine. In countries like the U.S., where the vaccine isn't widely taken up, that's disappointing because cervical cancer still kills several thousand women. Of course, there's also the problem of people in the developing world that don't have access to this particular vaccine. So you've got a vaccine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I said before when I realized my microphone wasn't plugged in, I said I had mine. Now, I don't know if it's changed or what, but when I had mine, it came out, you said 10 years ago. Maybe it was more like 9 years ago, I don't know. Anyway, I had mine when it was fairly new, but I'd already just turned. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. And I just turned 27. Now, they were giving it out free to girls and women aged 13 to
Okay, hang on. Can't hear what you're saying, Pamela.
Yeah, because I've got a toddler on my microphone. Yeah. Okay, so they were giving it out for free, girls and women aged 13 to 26, but once you turn 27, you have to pay. So I paid, I think it was $450 for 3 injections over however many, I think it was like 6 months, you had to go back. And I said, well, why? Why is it free up until 27 and after 27 it's not? And they said, oh, you know, most women...
increases.
The risk, right.
Give up on you.
No, they said you're either... This is what I was told by nurses. You've either slept around enough to get it,
right.
or you're in a monogamous relationship. And I went, well, hang on, you can sleep with 1,000 guys and never get it. Or you can sleep with 1 man and get it. Because they've got to be carrying it. Also, what? Husbands never cheat on their wives. Ever.
Ever. No.
Ever.
This has been proven.
Right?
Yeah.
So what a ridiculous thing to say. I paid, I didn't care, whatever it's done. I was in a long-term monogamous relationship at that time, which broke up about 4 years after that. You know, so I just thought that was a really stupid thing for them to say. But I thought, whatever, I'm having it. And then one of the nurses, she's like, oh, yeah, my husband cheated on me and we're divorced. And I went, well, how do you know he didn't give it to you? And she went, oh. It's ridiculous. Anyway. And then I've got a friend of mine's mother. She was saying, oh, you know, her best friend died of cervical cancer. And she's a very religious woman and all this. And she said, oh, how do you get cervical cancer? I'm telling like this woman, you know, who was knocking on 60 at the time, explaining it. And she's like, oh, no, she must have got it some other way. She would have only been with her husband. And I went, yeah, but isn't her husband, you know, a fair bit older than her? Yeah, because that's how it is in a lot of religious places, like a 17-year-old marries a 30-year-old.
Wait, what religion?
Just Presbyterian or something, but it seemed like when a lot of my older.
How would you spell that? How do you spell Presbyterian? Because I need to.
Presbyterian. Presbyterian.
Oh, you have to be Aryan. I get it. Never mind.
Yeah, right, yeah. But anyway, she just was adamant that she didn't get it from having sex. And I was like, well, she might have only been with her husband, but if her husband's been with other women before he married her, then he's given it to her. And she just kept arguing.
And it's, I know, and this is like this is the problem in the United States, is that we have the religious yahoos who are like, nobody ever has sex outside of marriage, and if so, it's God's punishment upon them to get the cervical cancer. It's just freaking retarded. Yeah. So the obstacles in this country are these, you know, this sort of fairy tale that nobody ever actually has sex outside of marriage and only chooses good partners. We all make good choices all the time. And even also, that good choice, that seems like the best choice, maybe they got fooled. Or maybe the good choice that they made got fooled. And it's not really getting fooled. It's just you didn't know. And there's no symptom for this. So you can't all not know that you have something. It's not like somebody didn't tell. It's not even that. It's just that there's no way to tell. And so, yeah. Earlier the better.
Horrible as it is, and thankfully this has never happened to me, women get raped. At least, well, so do men. But at least that's one less thing you're going to catch.
No, men, I mean, maybe, I suppose that's possible. I don't know.
No, but I'm just saying, you can...
But that's not a prevalent pressure on society. Like, whenever somebody says that as the counter to that, it's like, okay, sporadically throughout civilization this has happened, but it's not like you need a... it's not nearly as prevalent to be like, okay, we could also protect ourselves from lightning, okay? Like, we could also, like, spend a lot of time and effort. We understand. This is...
I just made the point that, 13 to 26, that's meaningless.
Yeah, totally meaningless.
Yeah. So, anyway, I paid and it's all good, and I don't know what it is now, but that's what it was back back in my day. And I'd only just turned 27. Like, if I'd gone in a few weeks earlier, I could have had it done for free, but I didn't know.
We don't know what you did in those 2 weeks, but apparently it was enough.
Religion is certainly a part of it. Just exactly, and I don't know if it's the largest part, could very well be the largest part. Could be the idea of punishment. Well, you slept around, too bad. You got the cancer and you died, it's your fault. But also you have the homeopathic group, the anti-vaxxers. And why is that catching, why did that catch on in the United States, but not Australia? Yes,
it was. The anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
Oh, they were. Okay.
They're everywhere. I'm friends with some of these people. I know people that think the Earth is flat.
Well, there was, it's Australia. They're going to be backwards. We had celebrities. We still have celebrities who have enough pull with people who think celebrity is equated to knowledge or intelligence, who followed a really bad advice. But okay, so outside of the religious, there's also a disbelief and okay, so one of the things they say the prime age to administer the vaccine is like age 9. Kind of have a problem with part of this because they tend to focus on girls age 9. Why not boys? Why not? Right? But they focus on girls because girls cervical cancer is the outcome of this. So if a boy has it, it doesn't matter as much for him, for his future. But this is like, okay, unless the boy turns out to be gay, it could be an issue for somebody else. So it should be all 9-year-olds. But then, and I've had this conversation with friends of mine who are like, no way. 9? That's way too young. I'm like, okay, all right. And this is the delicate conversation to have with a father. I understand you have a 9-year-old daughter who's not had sex. What age do you think it's going to happen? What do you predict? Are you going to say 30? Are you going to say 27, 26? It'll be 26 before.
It's just
She'll be 26 before she has sex, right? Okay. so right, like what age? Like, and it causes a parent to have to admit that sex is coming quicker than they could possibly want to acknowledge it for their child. I get it's okay for those other people's kids who don't have the strong ethical, even if it's not religious, upbringing. But this can't possibly affect my 9-year-old.
No, but okay. That's not saying that they're going to start having sex. It's just protecting them for way into the future when you do.
Exactly. No, that's the whole point. You want it 9. They pick 9 because that's before sex is even. It's supposed. I mean, I get the scientific idea is like sort of like we could do it at 16, and we're going to catch some and miss a lot of others. Hang on. Right? We just call it the average age. 16, maybe it's 15, how about 14? Where are you going to place it? If we make it 9, hopefully everybody understands it's separate from the sex, okay? It's the health issue, and that's why we're doing it at 9, because we're trying to separate it. But what a lot of people took from that is that 9-year-olds are then having sex. And it's so stupid, but this is how people interpreted it.
So yours is at 9. I don't know, as I said, mine 9 years ago it was 13 to 26, but I don't know. I think
they suggested it as I think that the suggestion was to make it a thing where you could opt out of it, of course, but make it available at age 9. Okay,
so for example, rubella. When do you do that? I don't know what it is now.
It's just so stupid.
But that's for pregnancy, right? So we all had ours at 13. We were lined up. That's meant to way undercut before you get pregnant. I didn't get pregnant for 20 years after that. Yeah. But at least I was protected. When I went in at 33 and they said, have you had your rubella? And I'm like, yep, check, done. Doesn't matter if you're having a baby at 15 or 16 or 19 or 20 or 40. At least it's done. It doesn't mean, okay, you've had your rubella shot, now go have a baby. It doesn't mean, okay, you've had your HPV, now go have sex. It just means
But literally, that's how some people interpreted it.
It's just you have a list of things, of vaccines that you want to make sure you have them before you need them, right? And you just cross them off your checklist. And then you don't have to think about them again.
Mm-hmm.
We have that same thing. I read an article just last week about that exact same thing you're talking about. But in the United States, the checklist is different from one state to the next. And maybe that's the problem, that maybe in Australia, the Australian government or something, it's the whole country gets behind something, whereas in the United States, you got to fight that battle in 50 different states.
We've only got like 23 million people.
Because I don't understand. They're talking about...
You're like the city of Los Angeles or New York. We get it. Yeah.
We have a lot less people, so it's probably easier to make decisions like that.
You're looking at this study. People got to know about it. They must know this particular vaccine is available. I've certainly read about it. They must know. They know we're talking about something that could affect your child, and yet in Australia, the people are buying into it, and they're not in the United States. I don't get that.
What do you mean, the whole anti-vax thing? I don't know. Yeah. I just ignore those and keep scrolling. I don't know.
Maybe it's trust. You don't trust your government any more than we do, I don't think. So that can't be it. How about would Australians be more pro-science than Americans are?
Well, the big uproar at the moment is that if your child is not vaccinated up to date, it was already that they couldn't go into daycare or schools, right? So then you organise your own private daycare, and then it was up to, if your child's vaccinations are not up to date and you're on welfare benefits, you're going to have like a certain amount of those benefits cut until you get your child's vaccination up to date. So everyone's saying, oh, they're making targeting poor people and blah blah blah, and forcing people to vaccinate. No, they're not forcing you to vaccinate. You're completely welcome to go and live your life. You just don't get paid, because we have universal health care here, right? So if your kid's not vaccinated, your kid is more likely to get sick. So instead of paying you that money every week to not vaccinate your kid, that money's saved, so when your kid gets sick, it can be spent on getting them better. So you're going to get it one way or another. Anyway, so that was the uproar. They're saying that it's forced vaccinations and stuff like that, and it's not. And personally, I wouldn't actually force vaccinations. My experience is when I was doing my nursing degree, in 1999, we all had to line up and get our tuberculosis vaccination. To nurse in this part of the world, you have to have TB. And one of the girls in my class, it's like a 1 in a million that it happens, but it happened to someone I know. She got TB from the vaccination. She spent 3 months on medication to get rid of it. She had to drop out. It's done permanent damage to her liver, so now she's permanently on medication for the damage that the medication for the TB did. And yeah, kind of screwed up her life. And her life was already a bit screwed up because she'd broken her neck in the army and been honourably medically discharged and all that. Yeah, so, but that's a 1 in a million. So anyway, I would never say you have to vaccinate, because I've seen that it does happen. People do have these side effects. She doesn't have autism or anything, by the way. But yeah, I don't know what the complaint is. So every time I take Chelsea for her vaccinations, and she's had more vaccinations than most Australian children because she's travelled so much, so we've had to get different vaccinations that other Australian kids don't have to get. Every time I do, I worry for a couple of days while you wait for the symptoms, and then she's all right.
Yeah. And then where did it go? Hi. What are we listening to in the background there? What is?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a show. The show I really detest, called Bing. It's a British show, Bing, and it's about a bunny, like they're meant to be preschool age, and they have these carers, and it's a whiny little snot of a kid And I really, really hate this show. And they say things like, "Oh, I hurted myself." That's not good. You
I
don't.
mispronounced
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and it's just. Oh. And you don't want to pee in the pool, and don't put your shoes in the toilet, and it's like, what is it
Peeing in the
about?
pool is like one of the greatest things that we do.
No. Anyway, I really hate this show. It annoys the crap out of me. But it's keeping her quiet while I'm on here, so I'll allow it just for now.
Getting a bit of robot voice there, Justin.
Uh-oh. All right.
That's
I think
weird.
I may be done anyway. I don't know why this robot voice thing keeps creeping into my existence, but I'll go. I'll see y'all next week.
Okay, I'll see you.
Okay, bye, Justin. See you in 50 weeks.
Oh, wait. Pamela,
What?
do you have a smart, or at least a semi-intelligent phone?
No, but I have to get one before December because my service provider isn't going to support my old phone anymore.
Okay, because there's this thing called Chess with Friends that you can play on your phone.
Oh, yeah, we need to play more chess.
Yeah, and it's like super easy, and it's on like.
I have an iPad. Will it work on that?
Yeah, totally. So go find the Chess with Friends app, download it thingy, and then we should see each other through the Facebooks and be able
Yay!
to
Okay.
games. Good night.
Good night.
All right. Bye. Oh, we haven't played chess for ages. That's good. We can do that on the iPad. We used to play it all the time.
I used to play chess as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Too much work. In other words, I get bored.
Yeah.
I could think maybe 4 moves ahead, and then I get bored.
Sometimes that's all you need. Yeah, no, Justin and I used to play chess all the time, and then we had more babies and stuff, so we got busy. But I'll look for that app. That'll be good. He's very good at chess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You waving by?
I can see that. Creativity. There's creativity. There's discipline. I could definitely see. And now we're talking about people, these filters that Justin was talking about that I don't have. I can definitely see Justin being on the creative, very, very creative side. The discipline side, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'm a better chess player than I was last time I played him, because I have practiced since with other people.
And it, part of it, my same thing with me. I have a low attention span.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I was working, I would be handling 10, 20, that's an exaggeration, maybe 5, 6, 7 different projects I could jump around 5 or 6 different projects fairly well. You give me one project, I don't want to work. I would get bored. I'd screw it up if we just one project. I got a Justin brain too.
My attention span fluctuates. It really depends on what I've eaten. If I've been eating properly, my attention span's better. If I've been eating junk, I have a poor attention span. So, if I have to get something done, I make sure I'm good on my fruits and veggies. I mean, I've always got them for Chelsea anyway. But yeah, I make sure that I'm eating properly and not just drinking coffee. Although that's important too.
Well, yeah. I don't know if you could. I'm thinking in the United States where we're developing almost 2 subgroups of people, possibly even 4. You have people who are very, very conscious about what they eat and getting exercise, and then you have people that don't pay that much attention to it. And I hate to make it stereotypical, but city people as opposed to more where I live. I live a little bit in the country. Lots of trees around here, got a farm nearby. People tend to be heavier. They got the big guts. I go to my hometown of Stanford. You don't really see that many. People really do look, in general, to be in better shape.
Okay, see, it's the opposite here. Now we've done a fair bit of house sitting around the whole country, cities and countryside, and if you Google the town Gatton, Gatton, it has been rated as the fattest town in Australia a few times. And we went to the Gatton show, which is like a fair, you know, because it goes around. And yeah, there was some there were some big butts there. Like I've never seen butts that big. And that's country. You know, and we found further and further and further west was difficult to get vegetarian food. Like I'd go into a bakery and ask for a veggie pasty or something, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have anything like that here, love." Like, so actually going further west, further country, is quite poor diet. Yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot of factors. You take, for instance, people who farm and do a lot of physical labor, like many people out in the country do. It's hard physical labor. Those people are probably in great shape. It might be when you get kind of in the middle of that, between people who are not farming anymore, people maybe, you know, they're more sedentary type jobs, but they're also not the super duper power people with buckets of money and personal trainers and all the rest of it. So maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to screen.
Yeah, you are going
to share with the world. TWIS Minion world. This is where I live. It's amazing. I love this. There's my little home.
Well, hopefully you don't have any stalkers watching this.
I mean, that's freaking amazing. Whoops. Oh my God. I clicked the wrong button. Okay. Let's try this.
It is amazing. I looked for something new.
There we go. So, I mean, as you can see, forest. Lots and lots of trees. We still have a highway, but a fair amount of forest. But Google Maps are just freaking amazing. They can even get you pinpointed down to, I mean, there's our, see, I think actually this would be my condo right there. Oh, well.
Yeah, I was looking, I had to look up an address the other day to drop something off to someone, and I hadn't been there before, and I could see that the bus went right past it. So I thought, well, but you don't want to miss stop and end up at the next stop and have to walk back, you know, heaps. So I looked on so I found it on the map, and then I looked on Street View down the road a bit back on the bus route, so I could see what the buildings looked like. And so I thought, okay, when I see that building, I'll hit the buzzer on the bus to get off, and he'll have time to stop at the bus stop. That's awesome. It used to be, you know, that you'd go past it, you know, and have to walk back half a kilometre or something. So it's
okay,
great.
You worked in security.
I do, yeah.
Two-factor identification is important, but WhatsApp, I think, is the app.
WhatsApp, yeah.
They use telephone number, and WhatsApp was just purchased by Facebook.
Yeah.
Now Facebook has all the WhatsApps, people's telephone numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they probably already have my phone number. My phone number's not a secret anyway, but the only reason I've ever used WhatsApp is because there's a journal, I can't even think of his name now, isn't that terrible? I haven't spoken to him for a while. There was a journalist in Malaysia who got exiled. Basically, it wasn't WikiLeaks, but it was a whistleblowing, you know, kind of news thing. And anyway, he only communicated on WhatsApp for whatever reason. So he was exiled. So for whatever reason, at maybe 5 years ago, he thought that was the most secure way to communicate. It's not now, but he would have changed his phone number by now anyway.
That's right. Whenever they ask me for the telephone number, I don't give it. I never give them my telephone number. No, well, I don't have a landline anymore. All I've got is my smartphone. So it's not publicly available like it used to be. And so, but two-factor is good. Two-factor identification is better than single-factor, but that second factor, I don't know. I haven't tried the thumbprint thing. I could do that for this smartphone, but I haven't really tried it. But I also heard today, watching a technical show, where it was a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist had, I think she had a friend, might get the details wrong, but she had a friend who was a 30-year-old surfer type person. And all of a sudden, Facebook gave him these numbers and said, maybe you want to make these people your friend. And she kind of looked at the list and said, those are, I know these people. Those are my patients. How did Facebook get those telephone numbers? And they're not really sure, but it seems like, maybe you don't want to do that. Obviously, that's a big thing. In fact, she wouldn't even tell the guy. She said it was just kind of funny. She couldn't even tell the guy that, hey, these are my patients. And yet through Facebook has a way where they look at people's telephone numbers, I guess, and from there say, okay, these people have telephone numbers near you or something. And Facebook is somehow using people's telephone numbers to make suggestions to other people to become their friends. This sounds very, very freaky to me.
Yeah, I don't like that. I haven't been through my list for a long time, but I probably need to do some culling and just have my friends as my friends. And if people want to follow my other posts, they can go to my page and follow it. I'll try and keep it separate. Because I had a recent thing, I won't mention any identifying factors, but the person who was looking after my superannuation, which is like your, what do you call it, 401k or something? Like your
financial advisor.
Yeah.
Basically.
So he, he's been doing it for about 3.5 years now. Added me on Facebook. Okay, whatever. But he was really trolling my posts and being quite insulting to some of my actual friends. And so I told him on a few occasions, can you please stop posting on my Facebook, because I don't want to be associated with any of the things that you're saying. And I don't want any of my friends actually thinking that I agree with you or anything like that. And it actually got to the point where he's no longer my advisor. I've had to change. I've had to go to someone else. So you really got to keep your professional and your personal separated. Otherwise you get into sticky.
On social media, separating, well, I don't, because I don't care. But I'm a 73-year-old retired guy, so what do I got to worry about anybody? But if you're like a teenager now, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever, you really got to separate. You might say, I've got a small circle of friends. But if you do that on Facebook, Facebook knows now who that small. That's part of Facebook's computer files. That's in the cloud. It's there. So, and what was it? You had this service where your tweet or post or whatever disappeared after 5 seconds or something, but then they increased it. Okay, that's not too bad, but it's still there in the cloud. So maybe you took this inappropriate picture and you think, well, it's only there for 5 seconds. It's not there.
Oh no, everything's permanent.
In the cloud.
There's no such thing as deleting something off the internet. Once it's on the internet, it's accessible by someone somewhere. So yeah, it's all permanent. Yeah. So then, if people go to my, I've got over 700 friends, and they're not all my friends, So I think if people want to follow my more political stuff, they can. And then if they want to get into arguments on my page, then they're not actually arguing with my friends. I mean, this guy was telling, he didn't know that my friend was disabled, but he was arguing that disabled people, you know, get paid too much. And so I was like, she's in a wheelchair, dude, leave her alone. But he doesn't know. It shouldn't. He obviously had nothing better to do. Anyway, now he'll probably be trolling someone else. So, yeah, I really need to separate them out. So when I joined, I was like...
If you want to promote something, you have to go on to social media. When I first started these Hangouts, I was on Facebook, Google. Well, I don't think Google Plus was around, but I was certainly on Facebook and Twitter. I was only on there to basically tell story, you know, maybe post some news stuff, but basically to promote the site. So if you're going to have a product or something to promote, you almost have to go onto Twitter and Facebook. But well, number one, it's hard work. And number two, anything past, I got 200, I think. Anything over that, I can't follow. I can't follow the threads or anything. It's too much, you know?
I hardly look at anything. It sounds really arrogant. I hardly look at anything of other people post. I just sort of post my own stuff and respond to that. Yeah. Because I know my neighbor, this is weeks ago now, she was saying, oh, did you see the photos of the wedding we went to? And I said, no. She said, but there was about 100 photos. And I went, oh, okay. And so I went looking at them and liked a couple of them, so she knew I hadn't seen them. But I don't look at what people post. But my Facebook page goes to my Twitter. So that's all. That goes out there. I hardly ever tweet anything other than that anymore. Google Plus I use for a little bit of Cairns politics because I support the local state member here and do some stuff for him, but that's about all I'd use it for. And yeah, and then my Facebook page I try and keep for my more political stuff, and my my profile for my, you know, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So my real friends, my fleshy friends. So yeah, I need to go through.
You have to take certain risks. When you go onto social media, just understand you're taking certain risks. The steps you can take, two-factor authentication might be one. You have the different password sites like LastPass, but really, or you can be even less secure and just, you know, use a password of 1234 or something like that. So there's things you can do to make it more difficult, harder, or easier. But basically, there's no way, I don't think at this point, I accept the fact that there's no way I could get completely secure. And I'm willing to, if it's convenient, like using the smartphone to pay for things. Okay, that's neat. Convenience is worth it.
I don't do that. I don't even have a smartphone. But like I said, I'm going to have to get one because my service provider won't support. Look, I've got a 2G phone, and they won't support that from December 1st. So I have to get a 3G or a 4G. So if I'm going to get one, I may as well get a 4G because 3G will be the next to go. So.
How many cable companies do you have where you live? What's your variety of choice? I basically have one, Comcast. So the area I'm in is basically a monopoly by Comcast.
Well, all of the lines here, physical lines, are owned by Telstra. But then there are, I don't know how many, countless companies that do internet deals on those physical lines. And so you can go with Telstra or you can go with one of the other companies. But there are parts of Australia, especially in the capital cities, where Optus physically owns some of those lines. And then as for towers, there are Telstra, for mobile, there are Telstra towers, Optus towers, and Vodafone towers. And then there are, I don't know how many other phone providers, but they piggyback those towers. So for example, like Virgin Mobile use Optus towers, and Boost Mobile use Telstra towers. Lebara use Vodafone towers.
What you have a couple of cities. You have a city, and Chattanooga, I think, might be the city I'm talking about, but I don't remember. In any event, you have a city that wanted to build its own network, Wi-Fi network, but it was sued by Comcast, and Comcast won. The cable company won. You do have, I think there are a couple of cities that do have, and the city owns the network, I think. But it's, for the most part, it's all Comcast. Google wanted to go to fiber as opposed to cable. And there's a difference between the two. One is, I don't know, lasers or something. I don't know what the difference is, but Google wanted to build fiber as opposed to cables, which they could do. But it got so expensive that they're getting out of the business. And what they're saying is eventually it'll all be Wi-Fi. And that's what I want to see, Wi-Fi. No more cable, just everything Wi-Fi.
That's how it is in Bali or most of Indonesia. It's free. It's available. Everyone has Wi-Fi. It's just there are towers in the city. There's no such thing as having a plan. They look at you like you're crazy when you say, oh, you know, how much do you pay? They're like, what do you mean? It's just available there. You can have a cable to your house, which costs about $1,500 to have installed, because my friend did that because he's an Australian running an Australian business and he just happens to live in Bali, and so he needed the speed and the reliability of the cable, like to have this for his business. He was trying it on Wi-Fi for several months, and he found it frustrating because it gets busy at certain times of day and then it's really slow, and yeah. But there is Wi-Fi available if you're patient, just for free.
Is that government? Is that the government that controls the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, so it's actually highly censored. So, but you can go through a VPN. My
that would be my. I wouldn't want the government controlling Wi-Fi or cable.
No, but you can go through, like I said, you can go through VPN. My friend in Bali and another friend in Java, they both go through VPN, so they've got the same internet that I have here in Australia.
Okay, VPN.
It's like a virtual network. So you're going through like another country and then back again. So you're bypassing.
Are they providing towers, or how is the signal getting through? How is the VPN signal bypassing?
Not on Wi-Fi. You can't do it. They do it on the cable.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they do it on Wi-Fi. Yeah. So there are ways around that. But if you're just going, I don't think I would be worried about the censorship. I don't actually watch porn or anything, so I don't care about that. I didn't have any. There was nothing. Yeah, so when I was there was nothing that I couldn't see that I don't already see here. Nothing like it. The censorship didn't actually affect me. I know sometimes I'll send a link to a YouTube video and say, hey, you want to watch this, and I'll go, oh, I can't access it. But I mean, you have that. I've got my skydiving video. You can't see that in Germany because there's copyright protection on the song that was used in the background. And Germany's a first world country, so I've got friends in Germany who can't watch it. So it's just yeah.
Yeah, that whole copyright thing really needs to be revised, certainly in the United States and with YouTube. Everything gets copyrighted. I was listening to these tech shows, so I hear about the fact that the big companies, Apple, Google, they copyright everything. Where apparently, like, they have a meeting, they'll have like a copyright lawyer or somebody there just kind of making notes of what the heck they're talking about. And if they're talking about something that might be then they run out and try to get a copyright for it. But to me, if you want a copyright, show me the thing that you've got the design for. Don't
No,
just
but
say,
that's patents. That's different again. Well, I don't know about in the United States. Maybe it's the same
okay,
legislation.
patent. I'm really talking about patents, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in Australia, because I just did intellectual property law and got a good mark, so I know my intellectual property law. So copyright is different to patent law in Australia. Maybe yours is under the same. I
don't know.
haven't. Yeah. Because so you
Well,
also
it's a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you think patents shouldn't be as private as they are?
I think copyrights maybe pertain more towards intellectual property, songs, music, pictures, something like that. So I associate copyrights with intellectual property as opposed to patents dealing with, machines and technical things.
So here, copyright protection means that the idea has been expressed. So if J.K. Rowling had the idea for Harry Potter but hadn't written it down, then someone else could write Harry Potter, and that it would belong to them, because she hadn't expressed the idea. But if she told someone about it and told the story and has proof of it, evidence, if she started an outline of it, and then someone saw her outline and said, "Hey, I'm going to go write that," and they went and wrote it, then she would own what they had written. So copyright law protects an expression of an idea, not an idea. However, patent law protects the idea. So you can go into the patent office and say, "I've got an idea for this," and yeah, basically you can get a patent on that. Like, what was it? Alexander Graham Bell went to the patent office 6 hours before, something like that. It was on the same day, before Elisha Gray, with the telephone. They were on, one's in the United States, one's in England. They both had the same idea at the same time. They went to the patent office on the same day, did not consult each other, and Alexander Graham Bell got there first, so he got the patent. Yeah, so that's how that works. And the reason I gave that is because we're under the Westminster system, being part of the Commonwealth. Booby, yeah. Chelsey has copyright protection on my boobies. And pooping. She's just said poopy. So it might be different in the US. Okay, we're going to get a potty. So
Okay.
we'll might check.
And the broadcast. We do have 2 viewers. Hello, 2 viewers. Thanks for viewing.
Hello, 2 viewers. Bye. See you next weekend.
Maybe not see you next week because I have to house sit and she's gone. Okay, well, I'll be talking to her on the Facebook and I'm going to end the broadcast. Sorry, guys.